Hey everybody, I've got another comparison for you today, and this one is a real deep cut from the turn of the millennium. Let's check it out. Sons of Chaos were a death metal band from California that were active from 1993 to 2003. In 2000, they released their debut album, Dawn of the Apocalypse. The album doesn't list a record label on the back, but the interior of the insert says the album was released by Brutal Force Records. Brutal Force didn't release any other albums, and they don't even have a logo anywhere on the release, so I suspect that Brutal Force Records was a name that the band made up to make the release look more legitimate at the time. This is supported by the band's own website, which remarkably is still accessible through online archives. It's cool to see this snapshot of how bands operated online a couple of decades ago. The band were criminally underappreciated even then, which is evidenced by the visitor count on the website. When we go to their discography page, they list their debut as a self-released full-length, so it looks like Brutal Force Records really didn't exist. Their website also gives us a little bit of history about the band, including how they played shows with the likes of Deeds of Flesh, Angel Corpse, Chrysian, and Incantation. By the way, Vital Remains' Dawn of the Apocalypse, another album with the same name, came out the very same month as this Sons of Chaos album. Both came out in March of 2000. Sons of Chaos followed up this album with their sophomore and final album, Redwork, which was released in 2002 by the short-lived North Carolina label Bloodsoaked Records that was run by Peter Hasselbrack from the band Bloodsoaked. I adore both Sons of Chaos albums, not only for their take on old-school death metal, which is great and underrated in my opinion, but also for the album covers that remind of computer game covers from that same era. Neither release has seen a reissue until last year when Doomed to Obscurity, a label that specializes in reissuing rare music, finally reissued Dawn of the Apocalypse. The first thing we can see is that cover of the 2025 reissue is largely faithful to the 2000 original. This was an era where computer-generated album covers were a trend, and I've got a soft spot for this era of album covers, and I'll just give you a little spoiler alert that I'm going to be doing a very big deep dive on those types of album covers here pretty soon. The Doomed to Obscurity cover is a little darker, it has a higher contrast, so a little bit of detail is lost in the trees and the canyons, but really, they nailed the look of this cover. The differences are very subtle. The logo on the Doomed to Obscurity press is a richer yellow. The album title has a new font, but I think the new font works well, so largely this is the original cover, just with a couple of tiny differences that don't really matter. When we flip the jewel case over, we can see that it's similarly faithful. Outside of a different font, the layout is largely the same. Bonus points for fixing the spelling of eradicated, by the way. Now here's where things get really exciting. Doomed to Obscurity have included Sons of Chaos's 1998 demo, Prophecies for the Flesh, as bonus tracks. These have never been released on CD prior to this reissue. Even if you have the original press of Dawn of the Apocalypse, this press is worth picking up just to have those demo tracks. They're really awesome, by the way. But now let's look inside. Inside is where we find some huge differences. The 2000 disc has a blue version of the album cover, whereas the 2025 disc repurposes the artwork from the back. It really pops, and I like how it further leans into that CGI video game aesthetic. The discs are completely different, but I really enjoy both of them. Both use a black tray, so there isn't anything on the inside of the tray card. The back of the 2000 insert uses some of the 3D elements from the cover, but reorganized and from a different angle. You can still see this image in the background of the new booklet, but they've also added to that the band logo with a slick gradient effect, as well as a bunch of band photos from that era. I always think adding historical photos to a reissue can help give you something extra that makes it worth picking up that reissue. It's really cool to see these band photos in there. Inside the 2000 insert, we find a grainy band photo, the track list, release and recording information, and a thank you list. It's pretty bare bones. It's worth noting that this album was mixed and mastered by the legendary Colin Davis of Imperial Mastering that has mastered albums from everyone from Defeated Sanity to Decrepit Birth to Unmerciful, and even my band Maimed, among countless others. You might recognize the person behind the artwork too, which is Chris Pervelis of Internal Bleeding. Now let's look at the 2025 insert. The 4-panel insert has been replaced with a 6-panel insert. We have the information from before, but in a striking, punchy layout that also includes the cover and recording information for their 1998 demo. It also has a dedication to Paul Aaron Sajowski, who was the vocalist and bassist in this band. He unfortunately passed away in 2006. We can also see that David Cray, owner of Doomed to Obscurity, remastered both this album and the demo that was included as bonus tracks. So I think the layout of this reissue is a slam dunk. Like, they did a really great job on that. But since we've got remastered audio, I'll give you my thoughts on how does this actually sound too, because that can be a big concern about reissues if it lists that there's remastered audio or if it's been remixed or something. Sometimes that means we're trying to go for a more modern production, so maybe it's going to sound more sterile. We're going to lose some of that raw intensity. Maybe the atmosphere is going to be different. So is that the case here? I'll let you know. Thankfully, that's not the case here. The term remastering might have been used generously because when I listen to both of these, I'm not detecting significant differences between the original sound and the sound of the reissue. This is a good thing because the original press already had a great punchy mix, which is what you'd expect from Colin Davis. The demos sound amazing on this too. The quality of the sound on those demo tracks is right up there with the quality of the album tracks. The tracks that appear on both the demo and the full-length versions, they just seem like alternate cuts, alternate recordings, rather than rougher versions. They're all up to the same level of quality. Even the demos sound like something that could have been on a proper, like, full-length recording. They're very high quality. So what is my verdict? So this is how you do a reissue. We've preserved the cover, we haven't messed with anything, and we've also managed to elevate it, right? We add some tracks that weren't available otherwise. We added additional panels with band photos and different extras like that just make this a better, maybe even superior version of the album. So the OG, still great, right? But if you can't get that, and it's perfectly fine to grab this reissue. Maybe even preferable to get the reissue because you're getting music on this that you cannot find anywhere else other than, you know, a cassette tape from back in the day that's probably horribly degraded and won't last nearly as long as the audio on this CD will. So really, I highly recommend this. If you've never heard this album either, make sure you check it out. This is what I like to see from a reissue. You can let me know your thoughts in the comments. And I think it also does a great job just of preserving the legacy of the band members, especially the ones that aren't with us anymore. And so what an honorable thing to just put this back out to help keep that legacy alive too. So if you want to hear more, see more comparisons from me, all that, you can let me know in the comments and all that jazz. But until next time, keep it brutal. Before I get going, I just wanted to let you know that you can grab that reissue from the Doomed to Obscurity Bandcamp. It's only $10. It's really high quality, so well worth your time. And also, that's just a great label that you should certainly think about supporting since they're always putting out great reissues like this. So check them out.